The history of North Africa has been divided into its prehistory, its classical period, the arrival and spread of Islam, the colonial period, and finally the post-independence era, in which the current nations were formed. The region has been influenced by many diverse cultures. The development of sea travel firmly brought the region into the Mediterranean world, especially during the classical period. In the first millennium AD, the Sahara became an equally important area for trade, as camel caravans brought goods and people from the south of the Sahara. The region also has a small but crucial land link to the Middle East, and that area has also played a key role in the history of North Africa. Starting in the 1920s. At a time when there were many expeditions in northern Africa, rock art research became a proper, although still embryonic scientific domain, most often organized in the first instance for military purposes or for reasons of colonial governance. These expeditions introduce an extraordinary but still relatively unknown aspect of Africa's cultural heritage to international audiences. The limitations of colonial perspectives are well evident in these endeavors. The limitations deals with how local African people were viewed and treated during the time advancing and proper and biased perspectives. These colonial attitudes are readily apparent in the literature. Anything discovered in a so-called dark continent, deemed civilized or worthy, was usually attributed to people outside of the given region. And this is a context of Henry Latt's environment and relied 16-month expedition into Algeria from 1956 to 1957 took place at the same time of the most intense fighting and the worst atrocities of the Algerian Revolution. A revolution between the French and native Algerian peoples, and being a Frenchman was not a coincidence and an obvious conflict of interest. He had the full backing of the French political and intellectual establishment, with both military and civil authorities at his disposal. Though all of this information is a truth on the periphery, this may have had an impact on what we were elated to discover and question. There is no doubt that Lott's expedition came at a most opportune time for the integrationist Lott's press conference on his arrival in Algiers, at which he revealed to the general public the greatest center of prehistoric art in the world, gave the European community in Algeria just the sort of fillip that it needed. The publicity that his expedition gave to the test silly paintings less than a year after the discovery, we have oil and a Sahara, provided them with a cultural fig leaf in which to wrap their vehemently conservative, imperialist, and often racist calls for French Algeria. So from the onset, Lott seems to have been in a political environment that may not have helped in the integrity of his work. One of his discoveries was a legitimate image of a woman who seemed to have been decorated. In his work, he insisted on naming her the White Lady for whatever reason. Also, he and his team are believed to have outright fabricated a scene he titled "Goddess with Birds," claiming Egyptian influence. Like his mentor, Lott had succeeded not only in linking wrongly the earliest of the Central Center and rock art to Egyptian classical influences, but has also managed to superimpose European cultural values on both sites and paintings by anointing them with good classical European-sounding names. Morocco has seen millennia of human habitation, reaching about as far back as the earliest appearance of Homo sapiens in Africa, during the later days of the lower Paleolithic cultures. Along with Iberia, it seems to have provided a refuge for human populations until the ending of the most recent Ice Age. During the first millennium BC, several Phoenician colonies were founded along its coastline, including Chella, or Sala Colonia, to the south of Rabat, Lixus, now ruins, and Mogador, the colony of Arambes. Rule from Carthage followed, which was replaced by Roman control. Invasions by Vandali and Visigoths cut the final ties with Rome, but both were superseded by Byzantine governance. This in turn was ended by the Arabs, who invaded in 682 in the course of their drive to expand the power of Islam. Except for the Jews, the inhabitants of Morocco, both Christian and pagan, soon accepted the religion of their conquerors. Berber troops, who themselves had a kingdom in the region for about 3 centuries until 33 BC, were used extensively by the Arabs in their conquest of Visigoth Iberia, which began in 711.